Hey guys, my name is Carol, and today I will share a story of why I believed I have superpowers. When I was little, my mom died from cancer, so it was just me, my dad, and our dog. I don't remember my mom well, but I remember her beautiful face, even though the last time I saw her was when I was 4. But don't worry, I'm totally fine. My dad is the best. He is my dad, brother, and best friend all at once. He can be such a grandpa at times, too, especially when he says, "Don't listen to music when you walk down the street." Ugh. But I guess grandpas can make sense sometimes. When I was 15, I was walking home from school. I had my earphones in just like I always do. And then a disaster happened. A car hit me. I didn't hear the car while I was crossing the street. A fast car came from the corner and got me in a coma. I don't remember anything, other than seeing my dog watching me through the window all excited. That was my last memory. I woke up 1 year later. Yeah, I missed my sweet 16. When I woke up, my short hair was so much longer, which made me ask, for how long was I sleeping? My dad then replied, "It was 1 year last Tuesday, my sweetie." His eyes were filled with tears. I cried too. Mainly for missing my sweet 16. But also imagining my dad worrying about me for 1 year made me hate myself for not listening to his advice about the earphones. When doctors checked me up, they said I still have several damages and that a part of my memory will be gone forever. In addition, I needed physiotherapy because I didn't walk for a whole year. I felt so scared hearing all of that. When I finally got out of bed, I fell down. I couldn't balance myself. Doctors said it'll take a while until I'll be back to normal. I truly hoped so. A week later, they let me go home, and I saw Max, my dog, again. He started crying and smelling me. He remembered me. I felt so emotional about how I made everyone worry, so I asked my dad to give me time, so I just went to my room to cry myself to sleep. My dad woke me up a few hours later and brought me pizza to my bed. He sat next to me and started asking me questions such as, "Do you remember your mom's name? Do you remember her face? You know my full name, right?" I said, "Of course, Jack." His name is William. I made a joke and punched his shoulder with a little laugh, but then I realized I don't remember if I have friends or not, so I asked my dad, "Dad, do I have friends?" He replied, "Yes, my sweetie, many, many friends, and they are all waiting for you at school. Some even visited you in the hospital a few times." I felt so guilty that I didn't remember their names or faces. When I recovered, I went back to school, and kids everywhere knew me so well, but I didn't know any of them. I couldn't deal with that, so I went home. My dad saw me crying again, so he hugged me and told me everything will be fine and that tomorrow he will explain everything to my friends. My dad went to school with me the next day and told everyone that I have lost my memory and that it would be nice if they introduced themselves to me once again. They all stood in lines and told me how and where we met. All of these conversations made me so emotional. These people seemed like they were truly good friends, but I don't remember any of them. After I finished school, I went shopping with my friends, but I didn't have any money on me, so I asked my friends if they could wait for me to go grab money from home. When I got home, I went to the basement and took out a box with money and took a few bucks out of there. My dad saw me and said angrily, "What are you doing?" I replied, "Taking my money." He said, "How did you know it's yours?" I then thought, how do I know that really? My dad said, "Put it back," and gave me money from his wallet. But I was wondering, why? He'd just admitted that these are mine. I went out with my friends, and the whole day I couldn't stop thinking about it. In the evening, my dad was acting a bit weird. He didn't talk to me much. I even felt a bit scared. I felt like I had done something bad, and suddenly I heard my dad saying, "Carol, could you bring me my documents, please?" He didn't mention which ones, but I kind of figured it out. When I passed them to my dad, he grabbed my hand and said, "How did you know where they were? I never told you. Tell me everything you know." I couldn't think about anything other than that I can read minds. He thought that my uncle could have possibly told me, but I haven't seen my uncle at all ever since I woke up. I didn't call him either. I went to my room wondering. I decided to search on the internet about mind reading, but there was no proof that it could be possible, and I couldn't tell the world and just embarrass myself. So I started asking my friends to ask me about things they never told me about and see if I could guess any. And guess what? I failed. I couldn't understand. How did I know twice what my dad never told me? My dad was curious too. I started digging more and more, but I couldn't find anything. I woke up in the middle of the night to get something to eat, and on my way to the kitchen, I heard my dad talking on the phone with someone saying, "Carol knows everything. What should I do?" I stood there shocked, wondering, what can I possibly know that he doesn't want me to? What is he hiding from me? I just wanted to ask about it. But if I did, he'd just be happy that I didn't know, and that way he just won't tell me anything. So I had to keep acting like I knew, and kept on digging. But at the same time, I was very worried about what I am going to find out. I wasn't here for just a year, and there were already so many secrets. My dad and I became a bit distant after that. I thought if the truth will hurt me, it will be better to end contacts with my dad slowly rather than suddenly. I started going out with friends more, spent less and less time with my dad, and I became uninterested in his secrets anymore. And then I met this guy, Mark. He was a bit older than me, old enough to own his own apartment, but still not much older. I met him at a bar and he asked me out. We started dating a week after, and I started disappearing from home for days. My dad always called me, but I ignored him. He must have still thought that I knew everything, and probably tried to apologize for his dark secrets. Mark and I really loved each other. He was even ready to move in together. I went back home to tell my dad that next month, that when I turn 18, I will move out. My dad got very disappointed and asked, "What? This soon? You won't even introduce the guy to your father first?" I said rudely that even if I did, it won't help him stopping me. So I just took my stuff and started packing my bags. I prepared myself for moving out. Anyway, I felt sick at night and threw up, and just like any girl with a boyfriend would think, I had to take a pregnancy test. And it was positive. I didn't know how to tell Mark. We had never talked about kids before. I still don't know his opinion about kids. So I just tried to reveal it to him in the cutest way to make him as less angry as I could. When he got home, I put blue and pink bows on the pregnancy test and showed it to Mark, asking him which color he likes more. And suddenly, all I was seeing was things flying around. I couldn't believe it. The lovely boyfriend turned into a monster. He was so violent that my only way out was to run away. He punched and kicked me, but the neighbors stopped him, and I got away. All I could hear was the names he was calling me. Who would have thought that our relationship could take a complete wrong turn? I got back home with a blue eye, scratches and bruises all over my body. My dad opened the door, and when he saw me, he grabbed his chest and started falling on the ground, needing help myself. I started crying and screaming for help like crazy. 2 ambulances took both of us separately, and when we arrived at the hospital, they started treating us right away. We both were in different emergency rooms. I wish that every moment since I found out I'm pregnant wasn't real. The doctor said that the baby is fine and that my wrist was cracked a bit, but everything else was fine. I couldn't wait to see my dad, so I just went to him without asking. The doctors said my dad is very sick and that he has been sick for the past year, and that this time it's really bad. I couldn't believe what I heard. I felt so bad that I couldn't stop crying. I called my uncle and waited for him to fly back home because he was our only family. Police came to question me about what had happened, so I told them everything. Mark was arrested, and I stayed the night with my dad. He woke up in the middle of the night and said that he forgives me. He thought I knew about his illness, and that's why I left him. What should I do now? I tried to explain to my dad that I didn't know, and that I tried to get the truth by acting like I know. But it seemed like he couldn't hear me anymore. My uncle arrived in the morning, and I felt so angry because he didn't tell me. And that's when my uncle decided to finally tell me everything. He said that when the doctors told my dad that I won't wake up for a long time, and possibly never, he got a heart attack, and since then, his heart became weaker and weaker, and that he saved money for me for the future. He also told me that I must have heard my dad calling my uncle when I was in a coma, which is why I knew things he never directly told me about. He knew he would die soon, so he prepared money for me for my future. And I was so selfish using it for shopping. I hurt and ignored him. He didn't want me to feel guilty that he got sick because of my irresponsibility, so he kept it a secret and planned to take care of his health secretly and live our life happily ever after. But my childish personality got him dying. I will never forgive myself for doing what I did. And I don't know if I'll ever get the chance to tell him how sorry I am, and that he's a grandpa. Right now, he is in a very bad situation that no one knows how it will end.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alice. Recently, I made a choice that will define my life for many years to come. And I don't know if I did the right thing or if I'll be happy. I'm the big sister in a big family, or rather, what's left of that family. Dad left us when I was 4 years old. Since then, Mom has been trying to start new relationships, but all that's left of her exes are my younger brothers, Jerome and Mark. They are 8 and 6 years old. If you think that since my mother has 3 children, she is probably constantly with us, then you're wrong. For as long as I can remember, Mom has been absent from our lives. I don't even know what she was doing. We live with our grandmother, and she said that Mom was on the road for work all the time and she was trying to make money. I don't know if that's true or not. And I wouldn't feel any better if I knew. Mom only lived with us when she was pregnant because no one else could take care of her. And a month after giving birth, she went back to work. I might have missed her then, but my head was full of thoughts about my younger brothers. I'm 18 now, and I know how to take care of children. But when Jerome was born, I was only 10 years old. I was a child myself, and my grandmother and I had to take care of him. It was hard because we could not replace his mother, but we tried our best. And 2 years later, Mark was born, and more weight fell on our shoulders. In those days, life seemed unbearably hard for me. I came home from school, and instead of homework, I took care of the kids. And instead of getting a good night's sleep before school, I spent half the night cradling Mark because he didn't sleep well. But I can't say that I hated it all. They were my brothers, and I loved them very much. So I coped with all the difficulties and tried very hard to help the boys grow up normal. Plus, Grandma was very helpful. I'm very grateful to her that she didn't just leave us, unlike my mother. So we lived together, and every year it became easier and easier. The boys are already in school, and they don't need round-the-clock supervision like babies. And I had more free time. And here he was, Alex. He's my boyfriend. We've been dating for almost a year. We were in a serious relationship. We made life plans together, dreamed about what would happen next, and waited for our coming of age to gain complete freedom and start living together. I was sure my brothers were old enough to live without me, plus my grandmother would have stayed with them. But as it usually happens, plans for life crumble in the most horrible way. You know, I'm old enough to understand everything. And of course, I know that no one lives forever, but I didn't think it would happen so soon. Yes, our grandmother died. It was a real blow for my younger brothers. Imagine what it's like to lose someone who loved you and cared for you throughout your entire life. The boys cried all the time and just couldn't think of anything else but Grandma. It was a big tragedy for me, too, but I had to be strong to support Jerome and Mark. The whole time I was trying to calm them down and assure them that everything would be all right. But at the same time, I wanted to hide from the whole world and cry. My boyfriend sympathized with me and tried to help, but nothing could distract me from my grief. I couldn't even get my mind off those dark thoughts. Imagine that. At the age of 17, I had to deal with a funeral. I had to make a lot of unpleasant calls and organize everything. It was just awful. So big changes were waiting for us. Since my brothers and I were underage, we couldn't just go on living together. We needed a guardian. So we had to be reunited with our mom. That wasn't easy either. I haven't seen her in years. We talked on the phone every few months at most. So she came to the funeral and we talked very awkwardly. Mom looked like she wasn't sad that Grandma was dead. It was weird. Apparently, she was gone too long and had lost the link with the people in her family. But Mom seemed happy to be reunited with us. She said we would have a new life and we would be fine. Her positivity seemed odd given the circumstances. We were still at Grandma's funeral and she was smiling and happy. Anyway, we moved in together. Generally, everything was as normal as it could be after such a shock. The more time we spent together, the more I started to notice strange things. The boys continued to be sad and our mother could not find the key to cheer them up. She acted like nothing had happened. She just didn't understand that they needed attention and she just needed to talk to them. Instead, she was getting nervous and acting weird. Sometimes she'd get mad at us, scream, and make us go to our rooms. And sometimes, on the contrary, she was so upset that she could not hold back tears right as we were having dinner. I thought she was acting like this because she couldn't get along with her kids. In the end, she behaved like a child herself. Day by day, things got even weirder. Do I even have to say all the care for Jerome and Mark fell on my shoulders? Mom didn't even know what children needed. Of course, all our childhood she was everywhere but with us. It's like I went back 5 years. I had to feed the boys again, get them to school every morning, and get them home. I was very tired of this life, and my only outlet was Alex. My boyfriend supported me, and he was the only one who cared about me. I tried to spend as much time with him as possible, because it was only with him that I could forget about my endless worries and problems and relax. He asked me to move in with him many times. But then I couldn't just leave the boys at home with their mother, who was incapable of caring for them. I dreamed that things would get better at home and I would finally be free. Alex understood that I was going through a difficult period and I just needed time.
It's in these moments when relationships are tested for their strength. And we passed that test. After so many problems, we were still together. It was amazing. I loved him dearly and I was ready to give him my whole heart. I was hoping things would get better soon and we could make our dreams come true. Things began to improve at home. The boys cheered up a little, and Mom's mood swings gradually diminished. In general, life in the house had become much more comfortable. I even thought that in a month, by my birthday, everything would be just fine. The day that I turned 18, Jerome and Mark woke me up early in the morning. They made me presents, and my mother made me a delicious breakfast. I was surprised by how she handled it. Then Alex picked me up and we spent the whole day together. Everything was perfect. And in the evening, in a romantic setting, he made me the happiest girl on the planet. He said he had waited long enough and he thought it over. Alex said he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. And then he asked me to marry him and move to another city. We understood that at first we would have no money at all and we would have to work hard, but we would be together. It was the fresh start that we needed so badly because we were very tired of these endless challenges. It was awkward and chaotic, and we didn't know what was coming, but I said yes. Yes, I agreed. It was exactly what we dreamed about. We lived that dream, and Alex had been saving money for it for a long time. Plus, there was a normal atmosphere at home, so I could finally leave my mom to take care of my brothers. When I got home, I couldn't wait to share what had just happened. Jerome and Mark were overjoyed by the news, but I didn't expect my mother's reaction at all. I told her I was getting married and moving, and she was surprised at first, and then she started crying. And they weren't tears of happiness. She ran out of the house crying and left in an unknown direction. It was a very strange reaction. She looked crazy. It was nighttime and I was worried about where Mom might have gone. We waited for her until late at night, but she didn't come back. So I called the police. The search continued until the morning. We found her on a bench in the park. She was just sitting there crying. I couldn't believe my marriage could upset her so much. Eventually, because of the sadness, it started a long time ago. Mom's mood swings weren't random. She had something called bipolar disorder, and her emotional roller coasters are a part of her illness. I said I was leaving. It
think it through. Honestly, I didn't know what to choose. It broke my heart to think of leaving Alex, and I was consumed with guilt when I imagined abandoning my brothers. I wouldn't want anyone to have to make that choice. Obviously, Mom needed help, and I couldn't leave her. And what would happen to the boys if I left? So Alex and I had a difficult conversation. Unfortunately, he got tired of waiting for my life to get better, so he decided to go without me. It just broke my heart. Apparently, our relationship didn't pass that test. And again, I need to be strong because now I'm the guardian of my brothers, and I need to help my mother with her treatment. I believe that everything will be fine and we will overcome all of our difficulties again. The thing is that I still love Alex. I think about him every day, and every time I can't hold back my tears. I really miss him. But what other choice could I have made? My brothers are my family, and I will do anything to make their lives better because there's nothing more precious than